Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegrand, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 4-game series against the Detroit Tigers. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins dropped 3 of 4 from the division-leading Tigers at Target Field. Truly, if the Twins were going to win the division, Dan, they would have had to sweep this series and then, sweep a few more series if we're honest.
Yeah, and then pass the Guardians and the Royals, who are ahead of them now. The Twins are 58-66. They're 14 back from the Tigers, who are 73-53. That's a good division-leading record. And then they're still 8.5 back in the wild card, David. It might be time to just admit that this season they're not going to go to the playoffs again.
Okay, so here's the thing, Dan. I like to play the pessimist every now and again, or the optimist. I never know, right? Like, I think if you ask different people in my life, they'd give you a different response. But we kind of joked the last couple episodes about how the Twins still have a chance to make the postseason.
Yes.
But Dan, if I'm being honest with myself, there's always this, truly, there's a sense of hope.
Don't give me hope.
There's a small spark of hope, Dan, that something miraculous could happen. But Dan, trust me when I tell you, after this series, there is simply a black void where the light of hope used to be, Dan Thompson.
Can we delete this sounder then?
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
That doesn't apply anymore?
I think we can only use that in a very, very particularized context, Dan.
Yes, so the Twins did lose 3 of the 4 here. Not terrible baseball games, some winnable baseball games. I think we can go ahead and get into that in the recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan. The Twins lose this one. This is by far, if you're going to rewatch a game and you don't care if the Twins win or lose, rewatch this one. Game 4 is going to be the most fun to talk about from a Twins fandom perspective. But as far as interesting things that happened, Game 1 is definitely the one that takes the cake. Tigers win this one 4-3. Bailey Ober makes one mistake, but other than that, he pitches okay. He goes 5 1/3, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 Ks, and a home run. He's sort of trying to tiptoe that line between good enough to trade versus not good enough to trade. That's what he's trying to do here, I think, Dan.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
Do you think he wants to stay in Minnesota?
I don't know. It's so hard.
You mentioned he has lots of children. They're probably plugged into various activities and sports and things like that. So
it's a real possibility, certainly. But we'll find out, Dan, in the offseason. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But after a quiet first couple innings, the Twins put up 3 in the third. First on an Eddie Julian solo home run. We haven't got to talk about that for a while, Dan.
Oh, Canada.
That was the first lefty home run off of Tarek Skubal all season. Of all the guys to pick, it's going to be Eddie Julian.
Who else, Dan? Who else would buy? I mean, Larnach maybe, I suppose, is a pretty good candidate. But then Martin doubles, Buxton singles, and then Jeffers grounds out, but he scores a run, and then Keishel with an RBI single. So the Twins are up 3-0 at this point on Tarek Skubal. They made him look normal, Dan. They just made him look like a guy.
They talked about this on the broadcast, too, how he was angry at himself even the inning before because he wasn't pitching very well. Now, he calms down after this inning here and actually keeps the Tigers in it because the Tigers are able to kind of make a run here because you got to figure if you're playing the Twins, facing this bullpen, anything is possible, right? So, just stay within 3, and I'm sure you think you have a chance.
Oh, no question. So, top of the 4, the Tigers answer here on a 2-run shot from Riley Green. So, Twins are still up at this point 3-2, but the Tigers tie it up in the top of the 6th. It's a 3-3 game. No more runs are scored in regulation, but the Twins did have a couple of chances. In the bottom of the 8th, Buxton had extra bases stolen. Notice I said extra bases, not a home run.
Thank you. It was very clearly 5 feet short of being a home run.
Yes, but it was still a great catch by Riley Green, and it probably would have changed the game. Buxton probably would have been sitting at third base. And then bottom of the 9th, the Twins had a chance after a lead double with 2 outs. This is new, Dan. This is the first time I've seen it this season. Brooks Lee hits the Raging Bull, the horns on head, and the pushing the foot back and forth in the dirt, that celebration, which personally I don't get, but I love it, Dan. It's fantastic.
We've got the Ryan Jeffers turning the new page. We've got Matt Wallner's Moose celebration. This is the new generation of Twins celebrations.
It's everything, Dan. I love it. But so the Twins get through the top of the 10th cleanly. Then in the bottom of the 10th, things get messy, and we're going to talk about the rest of this game basically in Rocco's Rewind, because there's so many questions I have about how this all went down. The long and short of it is, though, top of the 11th, Ramirez is pitching. A wild pitch advances the runner to third, a sac fly. Tigers win this one 4-3. And again, we're not done talking about this game, folks.
Game 2, we will be done talking about very quickly. The Tigers win this 7-0. It's the Pearson Ole Jose Urena piggyback. It doesn't, well, it doesn't go well on paper, but I will say many good things, actually. So they handled all but the final inning, which is really what you want your piggyback to do, according to our schemes, right? I mean, like if you have 3 relief pitchers beyond that. Deceptive, though, because Luke Keeschel had a terrible error in the first inning of that game. It's a grounder that I think you or I could have fielded, and I don't say that lightly. I know I say that other times lightly. I'm not saying that lightly, David. I think we could have made the play. At least we could have stopped the ball. He totally boots it, almost boots it to second base and gets an out nearly. That's how bad the booting was. But that was costly because then it unlocked a 5-run first inning for the Tigers. Ole allows 7 runs in 2 1/3, but just 3 of them are earned. And then Jose Urena was really good. 5 1/3, 2 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, 0 runs allowed, but not nearly a match for Charlie Morton and 3 Tigers relievers who shut down the Twins, holding them to just 2 hits.
Well, and we can't give Urena too much credit because the Tigers at that point, they're up 7 runs, Dan. They're just swinging the bat. They want to go home at that point.
They might. And then there's game 3. This was another one that actually was a pretty exciting baseball game. Tigers win this 8-5. Zebby Matthews gets the start, but he labors through the early innings, especially just 4 innings pitched, needs 92 pitches there. It only allows the 2 runs, so the Twins are still in it, and they actually take the lead in the bottom of the 5th. 2 runs on an RBI triple by Brooks Lee, and then another on a Lewis sac fly to score Lee, so it's 3-2. But then Travis Adams and Brooks Rice-Kriske can't hold the lead.
Snap, crackle, pop, man.
That's what we should find. They got to find. There's got to be relievers that would fit the snap, crackle, pop, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But they allow 4 runs combined, so the lead goes back to Detroit at 6-3. Still, the Twins battle back. Bottom of the 7th, they get a couple. One on an RBI ground out by Lee. Another when James Outman smacks the ball to first, but Detroit pitcher Tyler Horton can't handle the throw. So everybody's safe. It's 6-5. Hope abounds. Bottom of the 8th, Twins load the bases with 2 outs, but Brooks Lee has a very uncompetitive at bat and then strikes out on 3 pitches. And so the Tigers add a couple more runs in the top of the 9th off Topa, who contributes, of course, a Twins tradition of making a throwing error as a pitcher. And it's 8-5, and the Twins don't do anything in the bottom.
A lot of the guys on the Twins, Dan, and I don't know if it's a coaching perspective or a hitting coach issue, but how many guys does it seem like the way that they go after an at bat just seems night and day? It seems like different players. Sometimes guys will get up there and Brooks Lee is like going to foul off a bunch of pitches and he's going to have a really tight zone. And other times he's like, first 3 pitches, I'm either on base or I'm out. Like, he doesn't care. And I don't know what that mindset is. Willie Castro was the other guy who was very similar in that regard, where you never knew what the at-bat was going to be with Willie Castro. A patient sort of waiting for his pitch at-bat, or we're just going to swing at everything, regardless of where it is in the zone or not.
Yeah, it feels like when I'm playing the show and I'm in a big spot and I'm just not prepared. I take a couple bad pitches or, and then I swing at something that I have no business swinging at. It feels like a video game, I think, sometimes I'm watching those at-bats. Game 4, the Twins, though, win this one 8-1, send everybody home happy on the Twins Hall of Fame induction day, which is basically guaranteed that the Twins aren't going to start on time. Corey Koski, the mild-mannered third baseman. Actually, if you want a really good feature, Aaron Gleeman just reposted it on The Athletic one he wrote a couple years ago. But his story to the majors is pretty fascinating. He talked about it on the broadcast, too. Didn't play baseball, I think, till he was 19, at least not professionally. And he's from Canada.
Oh, Canada.
I don't think Eddie Julian was actually in the lineup even. So there was no honorary Canadianness in this one. But a much better result. So Thomas Hatch, who I think is not a starter. He's a spot starter. Who is a starter? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. He goes 5 innings, though, just allows 1 run. And then we have Mr. Tonkin.
I forgot about
You weren't awake already, David.
Oh, man. Oh.
I'm just going to play that sounder occasionally just to kind of snap you back into the podcast.
Make sure I'm here. Yeah,
exactly. But he pitches, Sands pitches, Genesis Cabrera, who was just called up, and Erasmo Ramirez pitched the rest. There was actually a stretch late in the game where they struck out 7 guys in a row. They combined to strike out 8 batters, 7 or 8. I forget if they were all in order. And then meanwhile, David, the Twins scored some runs.
Yeah, bottom of the 2nd starts with a 110-mile-an-hour laser home run by Lewis. It was weird, though. For how hard it was off the bat, it didn't go far into the stands. It was only the second row in left field, Dan.
Pretty much out right before you know it. It was his 6th of the year, his first home run at Target Field. I couldn't believe that stat. This season? This season, his first one at Target Field.
Really?
I know.
Oh, I would have bet money that he hit one. That's crazy.
I know. And you remember, because you sit out there, you can see where the ball has hit the scoreboard right above it, the ribbon there. Which is, I know he's contributed a couple of that. So that was surprising. He looked a lot better in this game. He had a good game. That comes off of former Twins pitcher Chris Paddock, the Sheriff. Thank you for coming back to town. He still, though, eats 6 innings for the Tigers. I thought that was perfect. At the bottom of the third, Twins really get to him. Byron Buxton hits a solo home run. Then the Twins rally. It's capped by a grand slam by Brooks Lee, the first of the season for the Twins, first of his career. And so it's 7-1. We'll talk about that moment later. Bottom of the fourth, they add another one on an RBI ground up by Luke Keeschel. So this was quick after those first couple innings. And there we go. The Twins don't get swept.
One thing, Dan, that often gets swept under the rug are condiments at a barbecue, right? You see it, it's the stuff is sticking to the bottle. It's everybody's got their hands on it. The kids have been touching it. But Dan, let me tell you, regardless of how dirty the outside of the bottle may be, I will always reach for Jimmy's coleslaw dressing to give your slaw the zip and zing that everyone will be talking about, Dan. Available in original, fat-free, and pineapple, Jimmy's is family fun and locally owned. Delicious on burgers, brats, pulled pork, and as a summertime side. You can't go wrong with Jimmy's. Pick up a jar today. Jimmy's salads, dressings, and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
This is my kind of segment here, David. You know, I thought maybe I was going to be out of it, but here I go. Brooks Lee, I picked him very reluctantly in many ways, but he had himself what maybe his best series of the season, or certainly in a while. He had 16 points for me, so I also got the bonus point for that. David, you picked Royce Lewis, who had 8 points. The listener took Luke Keeschel, who had 8 as well. And Hogs took Buxton, who had 4. So a good showing, really, for all of us. But, David, I am climbing in the standings here.
Yes, this is nuts. This has gotten very close. Hogs is still in the lead with 15, but now, Dan, you're about as close as you can be. You're at 14. The listeners are at 10.5. I'm at 8.5. I got to be honest, at this point, Dan, I'm just watching the show. I know that I'm not going to win, but it's interesting. It's like watching the Twins baseball, right? Like, you know, they're not going to win, but it's still kind of fun to watch every now and again.
12 series still to go, David. This is very much up for grabs between me and Hogs and, heck, maybe even the listeners.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I have to go with my guy, Brooks Lee, after this wonderful series here. But really, I mean, he had the big triple in one of the earlier games. He had the grand slam. He had the chance in game 3 to be the hero. He was just up in a lot of big spots, which was weird because he was batting like 7th or 8th in the lineup. But he is part of this younger core of this team that and they talked about this on the broadcast today, that you could argue you can build around this if these guys are going to be competent. And most importantly, David, they're inexpensive for at least a few more years.
As long as they stay healthy, Dan.
My back! My back!
Always a worry. Who do you have?
Well, I'm going to go with another young guy here, Dan.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
So he went 5 for 13. He has some great at-bats here. This is Luke Keeschel, of course. I like watching him play. He's just a fun guy to play. And now, again, we mentioned the air. Very bad air. And that actually directly relates to the guy I'm putting on my bench. So Pearson Ole, I'm going to give him the bench spot here. Even without the Keeschel air, he should have pitched better. This is rough. 2.1 innings pitched, 8 hits. Remember, those hits aren't errors, right? Like that doesn't include the Keeschel air.
True.
So 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. He's just a guy to fill in at this point, right? Like, now that's most of the rotation, it seems like, but this was pretty embarrassing as an outing goes for a starter, Dan.
I went with the combination of Alan Roden and James Outman because they're interchangeable in my mind, except for the fact that Alan Roden is actually an astronaut. I mean, that's pretty cool. But James Outman,
wait, hang on. Now we can use the finest hour sound.
Oh yeah, perfect. There we go.
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Like a walk-off hit from Alan Roden would be like the perfect thing now for this podcast. But we won't see one because he's out for the rest of the year with a sprained ligament, I believe, in his hand. So now we get to see James Outman, the great haul that the Twins got for Brock Stewart, who is actually now on the injured list for the Dodgers. It's feeling like a nothing trade for both teams there. And I think the Dodgers kind of understood that this was happening because they've had Brock Stewart before and they know how volatile his shoulder is. As much as Brock Stewart was pitching well, the Twins have been through this before with trade deadline deals, like Tyler Mahle, where you get a guy and then he's hurt and you get nothing for him. So I don't know. I'm not impressed with either one of these guys. Maybe we'll see Roden next year. I don't think we see much more of Outman.
Hard to say. It was interesting. I think it was Gleeman at The Athletic wrote an article about him. And specifically, he was saying that Outman has destroyed AAA.
Totally.
Like, he's been down there, but he's just very, very good at AAA, but it can't translate to the majors. He strikes out all of the time. He's a serviceable outfielder, but he's not defensively strong enough to keep him strictly as a defensive replacement. So maybe he's Buxton insurance next season if Buxton doesn't stay healthy. But at this point, it sounds like he can't cut it at a major league level to be an everyday player. Just kind of a bummer. But you never know. We have a couple of these guys who have been late bloomers for the Twins. It could happen.
Mickey Gasper, Carson McCusker. I mean, the list goes on here of guys who've mashed at AAA and just haven't done anything yet here. Austin Martin, I will say, I mean, he's an interesting guy to follow here because I think he might have, maybe he's the backup center fielder next year.
Could be, Dan. Well, let's keep pushing here. Rocco's Rewind. A whole bunch to talk about for Rocco.
Man.
Rocco's Rewind.
Why don't you go first, Dan? Because I'm going to need a little bit of space.
I was going to say, I was going to play this for you.
Please attempt to be a gentleman.
So use this time to kind of steel yourself and control your nerves. I just continue to be confused by the pitching approach here, but I don't hate it. I want the full-on commitment. I want somebody in the Twins to come forward and say, we are officially adopting the double piggyback strategy, the quadruple piggyback. I don't even know who's really a starting pitcher anymore for this baseball team. Bailey Ober, Zebby Matthews, Joe Ryan, and then everybody else kind of just gets a turn. I mean, you mentioned like throwing darts at a dartboard, or insert your metaphor.
Yes.
But yet, if you're going to try to see who you got, I kind of don't mind. You're putting guys in different spots. You're letting some of them start. You're letting some of them come in later. You're letting some of them close. But it is a weird, unsettling approach because I just don't even know what to expect. I have no idea who's going to be trotting out to that mound. Any pitching change.
No, well, you always have to check the lineups, and they always put the pitcher last, and you're always looking at it, and you're like, okay, but hang on, is he actually going to be the starter?
They didn't announce the starter for Game 4 until like an hour before first pitch. I mean, it's like, I don't even know that Rocco knows sometimes.
I think they kept tying in the rock, paper, scissors match they were doing before the game, and so that's what took so long. And they knew they had the extra time because of the Koski induction. So.
Exactly. That's a good point. All right, David, this is your moment here. Game 1.
Okay, first of all, Dan, who would you say is the Twins' primary shortstop?
Brooks Lee.
Okay. Who's the second shortstop on this roster, on the depth chart?
I think Ryan Fitzgerald now at this point, right?
Sure. Okay, why not, right? Okay. Here's my question, Rocco. First of all, bottom 9, Brooks Lee gets a double. He's on second base. It's a tie game. Okay? You pinch run for Brooks Lee with 2 outs. If there's no outs, Dan, if there's 1 out, I can understand pinching there. Okay, I can totally understand pinching in that moment. 2 outs, Brooks Lee on second base. This team has proven itself to be inept at getting runners home. You're telling me you have enough confidence that they're going to score a guy from second base and not have to go to extra innings, that you're going to pull your primary shortstop out of the game because the guy who you're replacing with is maybe a half step quicker? I want to start there, Dan. Bad decision, Rocco, right? I hated that move.
Well, especially when you figure that Alan Roden is up next. And then if he gets on base, then it's, I guess at that point, it was either Eddie Julian or Mickey Gasper who would pinch hit too. So it's like, you don't love your options there. You got to be playing for extra innings at that point.
Yes, very frustrating, super frustrating. And then bottom of the 10th now. So you have Roden starts on second. Now, Rocco, again, in his genius, says, remember how Mickey Gasper couldn't bunt a game or 2 ago? Let's give him another chance. Let's throw him out there. And not only are you giving him a chance to bunt, you're pinch hitting him to bunt in place of Eddie Julian, which I just find fascinating. Fascinating management, Dan. So he does, though. Shockingly, he bunts Roden to third. Now Austin Martin comes to the plate, and there's 1 out. And Dan, Austin Martin has had a pretty decent season. He had a really good season at AAA. He's getting it back into the majors. He's sort of warming back up, catching up to the speed of the game. You decide, Rocco, that you're going to put the squeeze play here. 1 out, Dan. 1 out. You need a sac fly, and you win the baseball game. And instead, you have Austin Martin sitting there, putting down the bunt, trying to score Roden from third, who's not that fast. I understand he can play center field. He's not that fast, Dan.
I disagree. I like this move. I think.
Oh no, Dan! You're so
like
wrong.
This
a
move.
sac fly wins it.
And so does a sacrifice bunt on a squeeze play. Austin,
No,
do you have more faith in Austin Martin hitting the ball to the outfield than you do him laying down a beautiful bunt?
1,000% more in for
this. Worked when they play. It was the Rays series. Brooks Lee laid down a sacrifice bunt to score a run in a very similar situation. It can totally work.
No, I hate this so much.
Oh, I liked it a lot. I praised Rocco for such a move.
Okay, first of all, I know now you feel like you have to suck back up.
They challenged
the play.
He was almost safe even then.
Okay, close play. Yes, the Twins did challenge the play, and then it's confirmed that he was out. Whatever. Okay, now we have to get... I have so much to say about Rocco, Dan. Bottom of the 11th here. Jeffers is at the plate. He strikes out on a called foul tip, but the ball hit the dirt. Okay? No question the ball hits the dirt.
Did it?
Jeffers
It was close. It looks like he might have I don't think they had a definitive replay that showed that it hit the dirt. I thought it hit the dirt. I thought it hit the dirt on the replay, but
everybody knows it hit the dirt, Dan. It's semantics at this point. We don't have to discuss that.
Not everybody knows. The umpire doesn't know. You think the umpire knows that he's wrong?
No, I think the umpire knows. You put that guy on a lie detector test, you're telling me he's not going to admit that, yeah, in fact, it did hit the dirt. He knows it, Dan. So anyway, the ball hits the dirt.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
What does that have to do with medical school, Dan? Lie detectors are now medical problems?
I don't know. We have a sounder for other kinds of schools. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay. Anyway, so Jeffers is like, no, man, it hit the dirt. And then Rocco comes out, and Rocco is clearly upset. Rocco has a lot of things to be upset about, right? His roster has been decimated. The ump hasn't been good throughout this game to begin with. So Rocco he's already primed and ready to go, right? You know when you're mowing your lawn, Dan, and before you're pulling that string, you got to pump to prime the engine a little bit.
Rocco are like onions.
Rocco has been pumped at this point 10 or 12 times more times than he needed to be before he pulled that ripcord of getting ejected. So he comes out and he is screaming at the umpire that he got the call wrong. Vulgarities are flying, Dan. My favorite part about this, though, is he screams at the ump that he wants to see the ball because he says the ball is dirty. Like, clearly you're going to see the dirt on the ball, right? Okay, but then, again, my favorite part, Rocco takes off his hat because it's sort of a Superman thing. Clark Kent takes off his glasses and he becomes Superman. And it's not a great disguise. Rocco's disguise is better here because Rocco, the mild-mannered, player-centric manager, he takes that hat off, Dan, and he's a different person. His voice lowers about 4 octaves somehow. Like I don't even know how somebody does that.
Yeah, it's a Batman Bruce Wayne kind of deal.
Exactly. And so he's screaming at the ump, but the thing is he doesn't throw his hat, but he's so upset. He's screaming at the ump, he's waving his arms all around, and he kicks dirt. I love that he kicks dirt on the plate. Very Guardy-esque here. But then Rocco sort of tries to return to his mild-mannered self, and if you watch a lot of Rocco Baldelli, you know that when he's talking to the umpire in a civil manner, how he stands is he leans his head slightly forward, and he tilts his ear to the ump, and he puts his hands behind his back. Right? Like, that's where he holds
very non-threatening to do things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, he's stuck now, right? He's taken the hat off, and he can't go back to mild-mannered Rocco, but that's his natural state, right? So he's trying to put his hands together behind his back, but he still has his hat in his hand, so he can't figure out how to hold his hat and his hands. He's already been tossed in the offseason, Rocco. I'm begging you, man. Go to an anger management coach, not so that you don't get angry, but so you know how to get angry better. Throw the hat next time, man. You have a whole clubhouse of people who can help you.
Well,
get a new hat.
He did eventually throw the hat. He threw it up the first baseline, but it didn't go very far.
Too late, though. I'm saying you got to get rid of it early so your hands are free, Dan.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes. And that was Guardy's gripe.
Just had to be done, I think, at that point. David, do you have more, or is that all you had for Rocco here?
That's okay. You want more? I'm sure I
just wondered if you had any more. All right.
No, let's go here. Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
I mean, it's got to be Brooks Lee's grand slam in Game 4, a big moment. As we said, it's the first by the Twins this season. I think they were one of 4 teams without a grand slam. Also, another, they've been terrible with the bases loaded. I think they said, like batting 169 or something like that this year with bases loaded. So good to finally see somebody. Wouldn't have picked Brooks Lee as the guy to get the first grand slam on this team. But good on him, and then it came against his good friend Chris Paddock.
Yeah, so that leads directly into mine, Dan, which my moment has to be Chris Paddock got traded to the Detroit Tigers at the deadline, and he is pitching so poorly, but only against the Twins. His ERA is sub-2 when he's not pitching against the Twins since the deadline, but the 2 starts he's had against the Twins, they have destroyed him, which is sort of like the best-case scenario, I think, for Twins fans, right? Because you want to see Paddock succeed, but at the same time, you don't want to see him succeed against the Twins, and that's exactly what's happened here.
Well, doesn't it make it a lot of sense? I mean, they would know him. They would have to know how to hit well against him. It surprises me that this wouldn't happen more frequently recently. The guys, because it's almost like he's tipping his pitches, which is ironically something he's been accused of doing before. So
not accused, confirmed. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So this is just like a bad matchup for them. You would think the Tigers, I mean, you can't so much avoid it with a 4-game series, but maybe they should have tweaked the rotation and said, can we just have him face the Twins once here over the last stretch of the season?
Definitely would make more sense. But I think, again, they're going to win the division. They'll be fine. I guess I'm curious how this will shake out as far as the seeding is concerned. But let's keep pushing here. Maurer's musings, Dan.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Maurer's musings.
So they inducted, I think it was the 533rd member of the Twins Hall of Fame today. I think it was something more like the 41st or 42nd. It's hard to keep track. But you look down there, and it's a who's kind of was of the Twins. You know, like there's some very good players. There's some real Hall of Famers, and then there's some other guys, you know, who are good. You know, Michael Kadire was a good to great player for the Twins for a few seasons there.
Yeah.
So with that in context here, I'm asking you this. Which current Twins players will someday be members of the Minnesota Twins Hall of Fame?
I think the only one currently on the roster will be Byron Buxton. He's the only guy right now on the roster who I can point to and I can say almost definitely.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the Twins Hall of Fame. After that, Dan, it gets tricky, man. Is there somebody else who you think could make that? I mean, if we're talking like projecting wise, like who could? Well, none of these guys are under contract. Who really knows, Dan, where this leads? That's really my question. So,
totally.
Like, to me, it's Byron Buxton and nobody else. You know what would be funny if they put Correa in the Hall of Fame? That would be an all-timer, Dan.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
But it is interesting because he totally would have been. I think for nothing else is that they intended him to be. I mean, like they probably had a spot for him already kind of lined up here, and they were just waiting for him to play out his contract. Because honestly, if he'd played out that much, he was the highest paid player ever. The Twins, you know, I do get that, but I agree with you. I look at this team now, and I don't see anybody else. I see guys obviously with potential, and probably the one who's farthest along would be Pablo Lopez. If he finishes out his contract and is as good as he's been, which by the way, he seems to intend to come back, but he might be traded in the offseason. Joe Ryan might be traded. So it's exactly for the reasons you said. It's not even so much that I don't think that the players have the potential. I don't know that they're all going to live it out in Minnesota for the rest of their careers. They might go be in other teams' Hall of Fames.
Yes, I think that's the problem. That's actually a really good segue, Dan, because right now when we're talking about this team, it's very different than in seasons previous where, hey, they made a run at it. They had a bad season. Guys just didn't perform. They're not going to make the playoffs. But then you're sort of looking to next season and you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen? What sort of tweaks can they make? Are there a couple of guys they can bring in? But now, Dan, I'm watching a team that ownership has made bad intentionally. Mm-hmm. So you could talk about developing players and you can still do that now. But instead, I'm just sitting here, Dan, in a constant state of concern that in the offseason, the Twins are going to make even more moves to make this team worse than it already is. And that's heartbreaking, Dan, to think about next season if they lose Ober and if they lose Ryan and if they lose Lopez. So my question is, Dan, how do I enjoy watching the rest of the season without this constant feeling in my gut that, like, this isn't great baseball and it's potentially even going to be worse baseball next season?
It's really hard because as I watch it, I'm trying to say, oh man, Luke Keyshaw is going to be, like, I'm waiting when they make t-shirts of Luke Keyshaw available in the Twins store so I can buy one for my kids. You know, like, I see this base and this core that I think could be really good. I see the guys coming up. Wally Jenkins coming up probably sometime next year. Culpepper coming up. Whichever one of they have two Culpeppers who are really good in the minor league system. Kalen Culpepper, I think, is the one we're talking about. So I have hope there for the lineup to actually be good even without, like, having to sign any of them. Like, I do think that the lineup could be pretty good over the next couple of years, but I have no idea with the bullpen. So I think how I'm watching this is I'm trying to see, like, which guys do I think will actually stick around, and I am trying to be hopeful to say that they won't trade Joe Ryan. And maybe I'm just going to let my heart get broken, but, like, I'm trying to watch it as if they will keep this team together, because if they do keep this team together, I do think they can be competitive next season.
Maybe, Dan. I think that's a very optimistic take.
Well, yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope that Ryan and
Look at the rotation.
That Lopez.
This rotation could be really good with Abel. Abel has pitched really well down at AAA.
Yes,
he just said,
true.
I think he tied or set a franchise record for the Saints with 11 strikeouts. He could be up. Taj Bradley, if they can help him become better. You have great starting rotation next season here, and they're pretty inexpensive. So it would be so discouraging to me if they looked at that and said, like, yeah, let's tear that down. I think you can be a good team next year with a minimal payroll, so long as you don't trade more guys.
So that's an interesting point. Do you think that our depth at starting pitching heading into next season is better than our depth of starting pitching was heading into this season.
I think so. For the, because we have SWR, Festa are available here. Zebby, I think, has taken huge strides. Ober, Ryan, Pablo, Abel, Bradley. That really is like what 8 or 9 MLB ready starting pitchers here. Yes, they have questions, but that is a better starting rotation depth chart than we've seen. I don't think I'm exaggerating, in decades, potentially. Like, you have 3 guys with all-star capabilities and then a bunch of young guys with upside.
It's interesting because you had said that same thing, I think, at the beginning of this last season. And I'm not saying that to discount what you're saying now. I'm just saying what you're saying now, I think you're right. I think the depth heading into next season, especially if they hang on to Lopez and Ryan, is in fact better than last season.
It's crazy to think about. They just don't have a bullpen with any proof.
Correct.
Series grades.
Give them a D, Dan. I think they should have won game 1. They had so many opportunities in game 1. It's just really frustrating. Now, it's understandable to lose games 2 and 3. And then game 4 was just a fun one to watch from an offensive perspective. But I got to give you a D because you got to take 2 of 4 here. Next episode, I want to talk a little bit about who you're actually rooting for as we head into the end of the season and start looking at who's going to make the postseason. But as of right now, Dan, I'm not cheering for the Tigers. I'd like the Twins to at least look competitive. So I'm going to give them a D.
So momentum is a -1 because you lose 3 out of 4 at home. For the reasons you said. Decision making, I'm giving them the +2 because I loved sending home Roden there on that play.
Boo!
You can boo my rubric. That's fine.
No, I'm not booting. No, that has nothing to do with the rubric. Hang on.
Sorry.
This has to do with the score you're giving using the rubric because of the Roden.
It's not the tool. It's the teacher. So then,
who am I criticizing? I don't like that viewpoint. That's all I'm trying to say, Dan. I don't like sending Roden. Is all I'm trying to say. There's nothing about the rubric or you as a person.
Thank you.
Yes.
We will keep it impersonal. The older guys, I gave them a 0. Buxton played well. Jeffers was fine, but I didn't think that was where this was won. Now, I thought the youth had more up and down, but there's also a whole ton more of them. So Brooks Lee had a big series. I thought Zebby was Keyshaw was fine. Martin was so I averaged out to a 0 in my mind. That comes out to a 13 out of 20, which is also a D. Now, David, I got to say, too, that Twins fans are probably trying to grasp the last beautiful summer lake days here before the season ends. The state fair is almost upon us here, and it's no secret that being on the lake is a great way to live. But when you find yourself in a busy boat or a cramped pontoon where everyone has brought their own giant cooler, it's the moment that you need an aqueduct from Rave Sports. Don't settle for the weaker options from the other guys, because if you have a Lily, you're just being silly. The aqueduct from Rave is the goat of the float, and unlike those saggy, hard-to-roll-up competition, the aqueduct blows up easy and is the perfect 10x10 size, just as sturdy as the dock you walked out to your boat on. So what are you waiting for? Maximize the last little bit of summer here and give your pontoon the water patio it always wanted, and pick up an aqueduct at ravesports.com. And remember, use the promo code PULLTAB for 20% off your order. Rave Sports, make waves.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
A couple of quick notes here, Dan. First of all, thoughts and prayers and all that for Phillies pitcher Zach Wheeler, who's dealing with a blood clot in his arm, which, first of all, set aside the whole, MLB pitcher status and like having the blood clot in your arm, which is where you're making all your money. That's a scary thing to have happen to anybody, Dan.
Yeah, I'm glad that they caught it. I think one of the things about being a major league athlete is you get those checks probably a little bit quicker than maybe the average person. Much lighter note, the Brewers franchise record 14-game winning streak came to an end against Cincinnati. I think the Brewers, maybe we'll talk about it next episode, but I think the Brewers might be a team that I'm rooting for the rest of the way here.
And then one last note here. The Astros right fielder, Dan, Jesus Sanchez, steals 2 home runs from the Orioles in the same game. And Dan, I checked. I watched both replays multiple times. It's not close. They were definitely both legit home run robbery. So folks, if you haven't seen that, the first one definitely better than the second one, because the first one he had to get it was at the very top of his vertical and it hit the top of his glove. It's a really spectacular catch.
That is pretty dang fun to watch those plays. Let's go on here. The Twins are playing the Athletics next.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
So the listeners are going to take Buxton. It's Hogs next, but he's upset at everybody. I think he's upset at us because we didn't stop the show to boycott the ownership of the Twins. We're not paid by the Twins in any way, shape, or form. But so
nor is anybody else, apparently, David. I think there's not a lot of money leaving that pocketbook.
So I guess who would you take, Dan, if you had the pick after Buxton here?
I would go back to Keyshaw.
See, I think so too. And I'm glad that you said that because that means I get to take Lee. So I'm going to do that. So I'll take Lee, and then it'll be to you, Dan.
You know what? I'll just go back to Royce Lewis. I mean, he had himself a pretty dang good series too.
Yeah, not too shabby. Well, Dan, we'll be back here in a couple of days, talk about the athletic series, and hopefully, Dan, I'll be more optimistic. This was a hard thing for me watching this series. The last spark of hope is gone. Now we're just watching this baseball team and trying to see how this will develop into next season. Hopefully, Dan, we'll have a little bit more optimism to talk about next episode.
Well, thank you all then for listening. And folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.